Welcome, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. My name is Chandra Klein, and I am on the Black Hills Leadership Board of Development. Would like to welcome you to our virtual March event. Thanks again for being here and making networking a priority. I know it's a little different in the virtual world, and sometimes we suffer from Zoom fatigue, but it's nice to still have that virtual engagement. You should automatically be muted, but please double check and just make sure that you're muted so we can clearly hear the speaker. At the end of the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute, or you can post the questions in the chat also. We're also recording the chat and it will be available in our YouTube channel. You can search by Black Hills Leadership and you'll be able to find any of our recorded sessions. I'd like to now introduce today's speaker, Chadwick Ratigan. He is going to share with us how his childhood has impacted his leadership style. He graduated from Walden University with a bachelor's degree in healthcare management, and most recently was part of Cadre 3 of the Rapid City Emerging Leaders Fellowship. He is currently the Transformation Director at One Heart, where he oversees the Transformation Department. His drive to lead the Transformation Department stems from his childhood and parts of his adulthood. Prior to entering the foster care system, he lived in poverty and experienced abuse and neglect. Even as an adult, he experienced homelessness and spent 3 months living in his truck while being employed full-time. He credits part of his versatile leadership style to those experiences and says he wouldn't change his journey even if he could. Chadwick has an in-depth background in nonprofits, and he's been working in the field for 13 years. He has held positions from home health aide to executive director and says he enjoys helping others accomplish their goals and dreams. In his spare time, he volunteers with child abuse prevention organizations and shares his journey through the system. When volunteering, he focuses on educating attendees on what children go through in foster care and shares where he is at as an adult now. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Chadwick. Welcome.
Thank you, Chandra. I appreciate it. Let me share my screen here. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this presentation. I was really excited when I got the interview and then the opportunity for the email, and then I started panicking because I went through and saw all the different leaders you guys have had, and I was like, I'm just a regular guy. But it's always an opportunity to be able to do things like this, and I thank you all for being here. I know everybody has a busy schedule, so it means a lot to me that y'all have tuned in. Mine, like Chandra was saying, it's a leadership journey, growth and hard lessons learned. It's a leadership origin story by me. Mine kind of touches on, the personal aspects of what I went through as a child in foster care to, where I am as an adult now. So for me, I'm going to share a little bit about my life growing up before I entered the foster care system and how that impacted, my life and my the way I viewed things as a leader. So I was born in here in Rapid City. I've never left. It's been an awesome place to raise, my family now. But the beginning was rough. We lived with my grandma in a 2-bedroom apartment. We would have different families stay with us, and our family, which consisted of my biological mom and dad, my older sister, myself, and then my little brother, we all stayed in one room. And I slept on the floor. I had an old military blanket, one of those scratchy ones. They were awful that I got. And our life growing up was filled with violence, anger. I think some of you that have kids know that you have more rules in your house than probably what we had. In our household, we had 2.5 rules. Me having kids, I know I have way more than that just when it comes to the TV remote control. Um, so growing up in that environment, the first rule was we weren't allowed to talk to cops. Cops were bad people, and they just weren't good. That was ingrained in us. Our second rule was we weren't allowed to cry. We weren't allowed to show emotions. My parents, our biological parents, if we were caught crying, they would beat us until we stopped crying or until we got away from them. And then the half rule wasn't necessarily ever spoken, but everything belonged to our biological parents. If we spilled milk, we spilled our mom's milk or our dad's milk. If we spilled water, it was theirs. We wasted it, and we would get beat for it. So those were the 2.5 rules that we had. Now, growing up in this environment, with them being gone all the time, they were in and out of jail, or they were going on drug runs. The house, when they were there, was filled, with parties. Drugs were there, alcohol, all kinds of things. My parents always bragged about starting the gangs in Rapid City. So the environment with the people who were over at our house was very volatile. I grew up watching, my parents stab people getting shot for owing them, $1 or $5 for, drugs, or being short, when they're dropping money off. Very aggressive and just very volatile overall. With them not being around all the time, I was hungry, my whole family was hungry. So I started stealing food. I would go and break into houses that were unlocked in our neighborhood. And I have what I call a safe space. It was actually a sewer pipe that stuck out over by the old Boy Scouts building, kind of over there. It didn't have like all the fancy stuff it does now. I would take all that stuff that I stole and I would bring it up into that pipe all the way to the back. Nobody knew about it. My biological parents did. My sister didn't. And I would take my stuff there and I would eat it. And same with if I was able to get away, when I was being beat, that's where I would go, my safe spot that nobody knew about. It was my safe zone. It was a place I could go and just, be myself. I didn't have to worry about getting beat for different things. So after, started to steal things from houses, people started to know like the raviolis were missing. I took like dry goods and stuff that would last a while to keep in there. And so they started locking their doors. I had to go further and further to steal stuff. Finally, it just wasn't feasible. And I don't know if you guys have ever, been so hungry, like your stomach feels like it's eating itself. And you'll do anything just to get that feeling to go away. So what I did after a day when I was outside, my mom hit me in the face and I fell down and I had dirt in my mouth. And dirt turns to mud when it's wet. And mud is heavy, right? So I would eat dirt just to fill my stomach so that pain would go away. I would also eat grass, even as an adult. I'm an adult now. And when I go out and smell like fresh cut grass, my mouth waters. It's the strangest thing in the world. But I would also eat newspaper. Newspaper, when it's wet, is heavy. And it just made that feeling of being hungry go away. And that was my childhood. It was a rough beginning. It didn't have a lot of ups. Most of them were downs. We entered the foster care system. My biological parents had a party. It was about 7 or 8 between there, and it was a huge party, and everybody was there. We weren't allowed to leave the room when there was parties, and I left the room to get a cup of water, and as I turned around, I could see my biological mom. She came up and hit me in the face. I fell over, dropped the cup, and realized, I was out of my room. I dropped her water, like this was it. She's going to kill me. I just still remember her face. She bent down to hit me again, and her eyes went clear, face relaxed. She stood up and she told me I needed to go pack all my stuff, and she never wanted to see me again. I was like, all right, cool. Like I didn't get beat. Like this is going well for me. I jumped up, And I grew up watching cartoons where you see the character heading down the train tracks with a bandana tied around a stick and all their stuff in it. So I did that. I had a couple pairs of pants and like a shirt. My Bart Simpson doll was the only toy I had. So I packed that and I threw it out our bedroom window and took off. I was actually heading to my safe space. I'd figure it out in the morning. Early wee hours in the morning, cops drive by. First rule in our house is cops are bad. So immediately I took off running. I'd already, snuck out of my room. I spilled water. Like, she kicked me out. The last thing I need is, to bring cops back to the house. Obviously, the police were able to catch me. They asked me what I was doing. I explained to them what happened, and I just was trying to get to my safe space until I could figure out what I was going to do in the morning. For me, that made sense, right? Because I knew the rules. I've been kicked out. Like, at that time, I didn't realize, like, it's not common for somebody my age to be out at that time. For me, with that environment, all the kids that we were around were having the same things happen to them, So for me, that was normal, right? So after they brought us back, they saw what was going on. We entered the foster care system. And met our CASA workers, who were Elise and Joe Ratigan. They ended up leaving CASA and decided that they wanted to adopt us. And so we were adopted when I was 10 years old. Best Christmas ever. They did it at Christmas time. Just strange though, we'd only gone to the courthouse to visit our biological parents for their visitations. So on the way to the courthouse for this adoption, which was supposed to be super awesome, I was panicking and I kept like elbowing my sister. I was like, we're going to jail. They've had enough of us. Turns out we were being adopted. And one of the quickest realizations that I had was what we were experiencing was not normal. You don't beat your kids for dropping milk. People can cry. That's a real thing. Looking internally, I can count on both of my hands the amount of times I've cried as an adult. So there are lingering effects from the things that I've gone through. But you adapt to them. You do a lot of internal reviewing and try and grow from there, right? So the whole point of me sharing this aspect of my leadership journey is because as a kid, you emulate the things that you see, right? Me, when I was younger, the leadership that I saw was very violent. It was very aggressive. Somebody didn't do something right, they got beat up. My parents had a right-hand man. His nickname was Bear. He did a lot of terrible things to people that I'll never forget. He did some terrible things to me also. And, threatened, if I ever told anybody, he would kill my family in front of me. I believed him because I watched him do terrible things to people all the time. So that carries over even after adoption, even after going into a very, very good home and learning different leadership skills. The base of my leadership skills were based on, violence, aggressiveness. You're going to do it my way or else, right? One of the things that I learned throughout this entire process is that I'm a fixer. And it's one of the things that I am very good at. I'm very good at finding what the problem is, right? I've had a couple different jobs prior to being at One Heart that I would be moved around from program to program because I could fix things. I could find what the root problem was, fix it, and then get that program where it needed to be. Being a fixer obviously sometimes has a negative connotation. If anybody works in social work, a fixer can be not a very good thing. They find people who are, tough and try and fix them all the time, right? With me, with my childhood experiences and then being adopted, being a fixer didn't necessarily give me those negative aspects of it. I have had questionable relationships in my life, don't get me wrong there, but for me, it's really helped me professionally. I'm able to zone out all of the chaos that comes with a problem and pinpoint it down to, this is the root cause. And in social work, the field that I work in, that has a lot of benefits, especially when you're working with people. What is the root cause of addictions? What is the root cause of you being late to work all the time? So while my childhood was extremely rough, going through physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, while it was awful, like Chandra shared, I wouldn't change that for anything. I do, as an adult, still have things that I work through, but it gave me a lot of useful tools and a lot of useful benefits I can use as a grown-up. So being that fixer, when I first started my career in leadership, my early leadership style was my way or the highway, right? Being 26 years old at the time and taking over a nonprofit as the executive director, kind of going back into my way of, we're going to do it this way, or, we're just not. And really reflecting on, watching my parents do what they did. That really, I don't want to say motivated, but it had a big impact on my leadership style. I was a very aggressive leader. I wanted to get things done and I wanted them done now. I have a lot of people that I talked to about this, and they said I should have worked in a for-profit, like large city organization where that style of leadership is fine. But for me, it created a lot of toxic environments, right? When I wasn't open to people's opinions, I didn't want to hear anybody else's opinions. I knew everything, and that's just the way we were going to do it. So my early leadership style was extremely aggressive. I had a lot of turnover within the organizations that I worked at because people weren't accustomed to that. And it was a tyrant, essentially, and when I talked to people about this, they were like, wow, you're being so hard on yourself. But for me, part of leadership is self-reflection. At that time, my leadership style was not compatible with what I was doing, as a job. I didn't view people as people. They were numbers. And we needed to get this job done. And these are the numbers that I needed to do it. So again, it was that high turnover rates. I wasn't open to new ideas. And it really took me, when I left that position to go work at a Native American run organization, to realize that maybe that wasn't the best way to do things. I came from this corporate world of structure and time limits and all these different aspects to this organization where, there was structure, but it was people are asking for input. Hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, why are you asking? You're the boss. Like, I don't get it. The time constraints, I was very time structured, and realizing that, time may not be the best thing for measurement. What are we getting done during this meeting is the most important thing. What progress are we making? So when I made that switch, I really came to realize that, a boss is this top picture, and a leader is somebody who gets out there and does the work with the people that they're leading, right? I have a motto with all of my staff, my coworkers is what I call them. I would never ask them to do anything that I would not be willing to do, that I haven't done, right? Because if I expect them to do this work, I need to know how that work is done for me. The biggest shock for me was that it worked. People enjoyed that type of work environment. People really liked the fact that, hey, I'm going to ask you to go help bathe this person, but I'll come help do it. And they didn't understand why, but being able to work side by side with them and realize, like, hey, we're only allowing, 15 minutes per shower. Just to get somebody, undressed into the shower, redressed, that takes like 30 minutes. Like, that's not working. We're making these policies based on things that I had no idea about, But when I actually got out there and I did the work and worked alongside with people, I realized that the policies we were making weren't actually working in the real world the way that we wanted them to work, right? And one of the other things that I also learned was, I don't want to work somewhere where there isn't laughter, right? Somewhere where there's such a huge structure and people aren't, having fun at work. And don't get me wrong, there's a time to have fun at work and there's a time to not have fun at work. But like if you walked into our department today, I mean, I don't know if you guys heard it because I'm in my office, but people are laughing. This work that we do is so stressful that it's important to have laughter. It's important to joke around. Being Native American, being from Cheyenne River, sense of humor is so big for us. It's so important to joke around, and being able to understand those jokes and understand what's appropriate or not is important. But within our building, you'll hear laughter, consistently throughout. What we're doing is stressful, and being able to take those breaks and be able to laugh and make fun of yourself is important. So having, again, that self-awareness that, nobody's perfect at the end of the day. So my leadership style, today is completely changed from what it used to be. And these next few slides are going to kind of go over what those takeaways are that I've learned, and that I hope I can, pass on to you guys. And if you use them, that's great. If not, or if you're already using them, I mean, that's fine too. These are just some of the things that I have learned throughout, my journey. I'm not an expert on leadership by any means. I turn 34 this year. I'm kind of panicking. But having gone through all the things that I've gone through and been able to make the adjustments that I needed to in order to be, successful has been important. And it's been an important part of my journey, and something that I do enjoy sharing with people. So my favorite phrase is, you can't lead people with your mouth open, right? Just like when I was younger, I did all the talking. I realized quickly that I needed to do more listening. Okay. We spend all of this money as leaders to hire people to do the work, right? We consider them the experts in what they're doing. Even if you break it down to somebody who's on the janitorial staff, you're hiring them because on their resume, you liked what you saw. They're very good at what they do, all the way up to, CEOs of organizations. They're hired because they are what you would consider the expert at that position. I learned quickly that listening to those people is so important. They do the work every day. I sit at a desk and run numbers and build policies and all these different aspects. And like I said before, I didn't realize that the policies that we were building and the different workflows that we were building didn't work in the actual everyday work environment until I actually got out and did it. I had people tell me all the time, like, this isn't going to work. That's not enough time to do this. And I'd be like, it should work. Just work faster, right? Actually sitting down and listening to employees was very important for my growth. And I realized, I can't lead people with my mouth open. Like, the first thing that most employees or, coworkers are going to do if you're the boss is, when you say something, are they going to give you any feedback? Or are they going to go along with what you're saying because you said it, right? I always ask questions for input, and I wait. How many times have we been like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And then before you give anybody a chance to respond, we say, well, these are my thoughts. And then you kind of lay out what you're thinking. What is everybody else's thoughts? Most people aren't going to disagree with that, right? Especially when it comes to your employees. They may not agree with it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I think that sounds good. We should try it. So for me, I ask for input, and I don't give my thoughts about what I actually think about it until the very end, until we've gone around the room and people have said, well, I think we should try this or this or this. It gives them the opportunity to voice their opinion and have you as the leader listening and actually digesting that. You know, a lot of times when I do this, I find out that most of my, coworkers or employees are on the same page as me. But just to see the excitement in their responses and in their eyes is, one of my biggest joys. Just so that they know they work somewhere where they can give feedback, they can throw out ideas, and it's not going to be like, oh, we already tried that. It's like, well, okay, how would we go about doing that then? Then those follow-up questions, um, and those deep questions. If they have a really good idea, how would we implement that? It's their idea. Let them take ownership of that. Let them, grow and be happy in what they're doing, right? Taking ownership of an idea and watching it blossom is just so amazing. And it's something that, I always look forward to doing when it comes to the different people that I work with. So the next one is people are individuals and they can be complicated, right? Anybody who's ever worked in human resources, social work, we know that people can be extremely complicated. But understanding that we can't work with people all the same. I have this this picture up here, and it's something that I always share with my staff, coworkers. I don't work with everybody the same, right? If I know somebody is a square, I'm not going to try and work with them like they're a triangle, right? It just won't work. It's not going to fit. So I have some employees who are visual. They need to see something in order for them to understand and process it. I work with them in that fashion. If I have a workflow or a new procedure that's coming out, I work with them in that process. I have some employees who they understand numbers, they're data driven. Well, if we're having issues with case management, it's like, look, this many times last week, this person was late to work. Why is that? And for them, it clicks in their brain. If I treated everybody the same, probably one person would understand it out of our entire team. And that would be disastrous. At the end of the day, we wouldn't move forward with our goals and with our projects. Everybody learns differently. Everybody takes in information differently. Same with like discipline. It's the same thing. For me as an employee, I'm very data driven and visual. So for me, that's how I learn the best. But I communicate that with all my supervisors. This is how I learn best. And if you genuinely want me to understand what you're saying and putting out there, this may be the questions I'm going to ask. Do you have any other information for me? Do you have any numbers that I can look at? Right. So just understanding that people, work differently and they perceive things differently. And also people are motivated differently, right? Understanding what motivates people is so important also. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by more time off. Some people are motivated by praise, telling them they did a good job. Understanding those different aspects can help you work with people, even down to my own kids. I don't know how many times our middle daughter, Zoe, has told me, she'll tell me, Dad, I'm not one of your clients. Stop doing that. And, but understanding what motivates them. For her, it's going outside and playing with her friends. Hey, if you get your room clean, you can go play out with your friends. Okay, it's done in 5 minutes. But if I'm like, hey, if you clean your room, I'll give you $5. Guess what? It's not getting done. So just understanding what motivates each individual and how best to work with them with that, is the best thing that I've learned. Even, being on different board of directors, working with people individually, in all these different groups, it really breaks down to getting to know individuals, getting to know the people you work with, the staff that you have. And some of you may question like, well, how do you do that in a big organization? And I call it the trickle down effect, right? So if you are the head of your organization or the head of your department, you you show that example to the people under you, right? You may have different department heads, different managers that run departments. You show them how it's done by what you're doing. And then hopefully they show their employees, their supervisors show their employees. And then pretty soon you have this workplace where everybody understands how to work with people individually, what motivates people individually. For me here, at One Heart, we have a rule here. We treat everybody the same. Everybody from the guests that we work with to our janitorial staff to our directors, everybody is treated the same. Nobody's more important than the other person, right? We are all on the same level. We're all here to do the work. We're all here to be here for the guests, to support them so that they can be successful. And it's crazy how we've taken this idea, rolled it out across the entire campus, and it's working. We have guests that come up when I'm over at the department or over in our towers, and they'll just start talking to me, and they'll start talking to our executive director. Like, there's no fear there of, oh man, that's the boss. It's just, we're other people. We take suggestions, we receive suggestions, we tell them we'll work on them. Just understanding, those different components when it comes down to it. So just really understanding people at the end of the day, right? This next one, I call it empathy in the workplace. So one of the biggest things that I did when I came onto One Heart, the One Heart team as a transformation director, was I told all of our staff the first day that we got together for our training, because we did 2 months of training before we opened our doors, was my goal was to bring empathy back into the workplace. And most people are like, wait, what does that mean? Just like I said, my early leadership style, people were numbers, right? They were data. Okay, numbers don't have feelings. People have feelings, right? Understanding that me as the leader, I need to understand that people have things that happen, right? People can't. We say it all the time, you got to leave that at the door. You got to leave your personal life at the door, right? People aren't necessarily capable of doing that, right? And I'll give you an example. When I worked at OHC, I was running the PRC department. And the man that I was talking about earlier, Bear, the scary guy, he had sexually abused me when I was younger. And I don't know if everybody understands how PRC works, but essentially any services outside of the walls of the hospital up there need to be paid for through purchase referred care is what it's called. And, sometimes it takes a while to pay the bills. He was coming up to check on when that bill was going to be paid. And immediately when I heard his voice, I froze. Something was wrong. I couldn't tell why that voice sounded familiar, but my body knew. And he came around the corner and smiled at me. He recognized me. My whole body froze. I went into panic mode. And after I got him to a staff member that could help him, I closed my office door and just had like a mental breakdown. Immediately, I needed to quit my job. I needed to move my entire family out of Rapid City, and all those different aspects. It was fear. And when we tell people you have to leave that baggage at the door, in that situation, I literally couldn't leave my baggage at the door because my baggage had just walked into my office, right? So understanding that people go through things and understanding that we do have to have empathy. Yeah, it's, we have deadlines. We have different things that we have to meet. But if somebody's having a rough day, we do what we call check-ins. So every morning and before every staff meeting we have a check-in. Everybody goes around and they have 1 to 2 minutes to tell us kind of where they're at for the day. So a common check-in would be, if I checked in with you guys, hope everybody's doing well today. I'm tired today. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but I'm excited for the day because it's my daughter's 15th birthday today. I'm excited for the party tonight and looking forward to having a great day. And that's literally all it takes, a check-in. And then that way my staff and the other staff in the room know, like, dude, Chad's in a good mood. Let's go ask for PTO, right? So, and also the vice versa, somebody checks in and their grandma died last night. I know then that it's going to be a hard day for them. How can I help balance their workload today so that they are able to get things done if we have deadlines and still be productive? So having those check-ins and realizing that people have things that happen in their personal life that they are going to take to work is one of the most important, most valuable lessons that I've learned, because I can't just drive numbers, right? we work with people, we work with individuals that are just complex. They have so many complex issues, and realizing that, we have to take those things into account when it comes to working with them. Somebody may have a really bad day. They may snap at you. And without a check-in process, you're like, all right, I'm gonna have to write you up. But then if you have a check-in process, oh, their grandma died, I'm not necessarily going to write you up, but I understand you're having a rough day. If you need to take a 5-minute break to go collect yourself, that's fine, do that. And just realizing that, that baggage comes to work. Some days it doesn't always come out in the best possible way, but at least having the knowledge of what somebody's going through is important. And mindset. So this is the biggest thing for me. And I put this in here because all the things that I've gone through, all the lessons that I've learned, the biggest thing that I've learned is having an optimistic mindset increases your likelihood of a winning perspective and having long-term success. It drives people nuts that I am so positive. It literally, people are like, God, why are you so positive? Like, if my truck broke down, it's like, I got to walk to work, I got to bike to work, but at least I'm going to get some exercise in today. At least, this, it's not always a negative thing. And I'm able to take most negative things and turn it into a positive. And I posed one of my staff members yesterday. I was like, give me an example. And of course, she gave me the worst example. She was like, when I was younger, my family's house burned down. She was like, turn that into a positive. And I told her, I said, well, I said, did your family come together closer after the fire? Well, yeah, because we lost everything. And I said, so you were able to increase your relationships and your family bond because this tragic thing happened. I said, and you were able to let go of a lot of the materialistic things that you had in the house. And she was like, yeah, I did learn that. So it's literally taking your mindset about something that's so bad and realizing what is the positive in this situation. That example I gave of an employee snapping, the positive from that is like, I realized that her grandma died. She may need to take 5 minutes to go collect herself, but understanding that me as a human being and them as human beings, it gives them that insight to, Chad is a human. He's not just the transformation director. He's not just the leader. He's a human. And it gives them insight into my personal life and lets them know that I am a human. I understand that you're a human. And we need to work together in order to make our department grow, in order to meet the goals that we have, right? And the last thing, before we get to questions, and hope you don't mind, Chandra, I actually put a question slide in. Wasn't thinking, so I apologize. But this is one of the things that I have learned from and grown with, is you can either live in peace or you can live in pieces. Prior me changing the way that I lead, I was living in pieces. I hadn't dealt with the trauma, the abuse, any of that stuff that I had gone through, right? I was living in pieces. I was just trying to get through day to day. Like, oh God, this happened. It's fine. Tomorrow's a different day. I finally decided, like, if I want to be an effective leader, if I want to be a good example for my kids, if I want to be a good husband, if I want to be a good community member, I need to be self-aware. I need to look internally, and I need to go through and fix some of these things that I have trauma with, so that if I'm ever triggered, like I was at OHC, I know how to calm myself down and come down out of crisis mode and realize that, you know what, I'm a grown-up now. I have control over what's inside. I want to live in peace. I want to grow. I want to be the best leader that I can be. But being self-aware of that component is so important. There's days where I struggle, and my watch will tell me, like, hey, your heart rate's getting high. And I have to look in why. Do I have a meeting coming up that I'm nervous about? What can I do to prepare myself for that meeting so I'm not as nervous? Just being self-aware so that internally, so that you can reflect out in your leadership style in a positive manner. And it's not easy. Being self-aware to the point where you can boil down to, this is the root cause of the problem. was my nervousness, especially for this presentation, for example. You know, I knew that I was nervous because I, of course, got online. I looked at who else had presented, and I realized, like, you know, I'm just a regular guy. You know, that was the root cause. I just, you know, I didn't view myself as a leader necessarily compared to the other people that had been on this before. So realizing that, you know, they asked me to be here, they must, you know, see something in me, really helped me process my own internal feelings and be able to actually be here and talking to you guys. So for me, it's just so important to live in peace versus those pieces, and being able to adapt and overcome barriers that pop up and be able to assist your staff in doing that is also super important. So I guess it's questions time. If anybody has any questions, again, I thank all of you for letting me do this presentation. It's been awesome, and I appreciate everybody's time. Oh, I think you're muted, Chandra.
I'm muted again. That darn mute button. Thank you so much, Chadwick. This was so inspirational. I was taking notes along the way, and I always find little tidbits to take away. Something that I wanted to comment on. Your daughter must not be a teenager, because if she's a teenager, I think she would probably take the option too of the money. I know that's what my daughter would take. I was going to comment on, she's 8. So yeah, she'll get to the point where that she'll change her option to the money option. I was going to comment on your piece around making your team feel empowered and letting their voice be heard. I'm good about letting my team feel empowered, but I liked your idea of letting them share their thoughts before I jump in with, this is what I was thinking. Because again, they're usually thinking along the same lines, but it makes them feel more empowered and like their voice is heard, knowing that you open it up to them first before you jump in.
Yeah, and it's that's hard. Like, it's so hard, like, to know, like, yeah, my staff and I all think the same, and then to be like, what are your thoughts, and then sit there. And sometimes I'll sit there for a minute or two, and, you know, silence is uncomfortable. So eventually it forces the staff to actually, you know, put their input and their thoughts. And we have one staff member who came up with this really great idea when it comes to transportation here, something nobody had thought of. And without leaving that awkward silence for somebody to give us input, you know, it's going to save us money and it's going to save us time. They came up with that idea, and now she's working on getting it established and coming up with other ideas on how to make it run better. So it's been amazing.
That's great. If you have any questions, please post in the chat. I will read. We do have a question. With everything you do, how important is a positive attitude in your success and your overall well-being?
It is extremely important for me. Again, I'm always positive. Like, I try and find the positive in everything. For instance, that situation that happened with Bear. After I came out of crisis mode, the positive was I never truly healed from that trauma that I went through. And I realized you never truly heal from trauma that you go through 100%. You get coping mechanisms. And those are either healthy coping mechanisms or unhealthy coping mechanisms. But realizing that self-awareness of I wasn't as healed as I thought I was the positive of that terrible situation. And the successes for me, I mean, I see successes every day with kids at work. One of the things that I like to tell our team members, and I remind myself every day, is I like to ask them when I first meet them is, you know, can you change the world? And of course, most people are like, well, no, you can't, it's too big. And it's kind of a trick question because like Chandra and I, for instance, we don't live in the same world, right? Everybody's life is their own world, right? We don't do the same things. Okay, I don't do the same things that my coworkers do. We have our own separate lives. We have our own separate worlds. You know, if you can impact somebody and change their world, you're changing their life, you are changing their world. So it's a whole bunch of tiny little worlds, but it has the impact that you're looking for when it comes to wanting to change the world. You know, with everything else, you know, trying to keep that positive outlook and even with my kids. I mean, Zoe, the one I was talking about, she, you're too positive, Dad. But it is interesting, and just trying to do better than I was yesterday is also important to me. Just to be able to show the staff and myself that you can overcome any barriers that you have placed in front of you.
Thanks for that. And the positivity is definitely contagious. I like to keep that mindset with my team as well. Talk to us about mentors. Have you had any mentors, and have they played a role in your transformation as a leader? Do you mentor others?
Yeah, I've had quite a few mentors throughout my life. Matt Sargent was with the Pennington County Sheriff's Department. He's still a mentor of mine today. I still meet with him. Vince Braun was with Black Hills Works for a long time. I still, try and meet with him. Due to COVID, we've kind of gone away, but there we were getting coffee, once or twice a month, just to discuss issues and have him help me troubleshoot things. My dad, Joe, is also a mentor of mine. He's my dad. Like, if I can be half the person that he is, I would consider that a win. When it comes to actually mentoring other people, I do mentor people. We meet once or twice a month. If we just need to talk on the phone, we do that. I help them work through problems. I love mentoring. I love being able to give back in a way that is meaningful to me, and that helps me refill my cup, right? So doing stuff like this and sharing my story with child abuse organizations, future foster parents, for me, that is refilling my cup. It is close to my heart. It's something that I enjoy doing. And just being able to help people overall is important.
Again, following your passion, having the empathy, and sharing the tidbits that you've learned along the way too. That's great. Other questions? There is one in the chat. So we are going to have a book drawing. The book is Start with Why, and it's by, who is it by again, Chad?
Simon Sinek.
Why are you recommending that book to this group?
It is, sorry, I just get so excited talking about it. It's just such a great book about starting with why. Why are you doing what you do, right? He talks about organizations and, why you should start with why. People know what you do, right? So take Black Hills Leadership, for instance. People know what you do. You do these presentations, luncheons, but why do you do it? Starting with why. I'm a board member for the Black Hills Leadership. We put on presentations so we can help motivate and grow other leaders in the Black Hills. I'm not actually a board member. I'm just saying, starting with why buys people in, right? He has all these great videos out there about sharing what organizations, like Apple, for instance, they start with why you should buy their products. It's a lifestyle, right? We know what they make. They make phones, but it's a whole lifestyle, right? They start with why, and then they work their way out to what they do last. So it really just gives you some insight into why you should start with why and why it's so important. And Simon Sinek is just an extremely intelligent human being when it comes to working with other people and how you should be doing things. So it's a great book. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but that book just gets me so excited.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading that book also. I've added it to my list. Tell us what is your why?
My why, why do I do what I do? It's to give back to people and organizations who have helped me along the way. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, DSS, the Rhapsody Police Department, my different mentors. So my why is to pay that forward. I'm in a place now where I can help people, whether it's mentoring, whether it's doing it actually at work. My why is to be able to help them because I was in that situation at one time. I was there, even as an adult when I was 21, homeless in my truck. I was those people that we are helping now at one point in time in my life. So my why is being able to help them accomplish what they want to do now. I've reached that point in my life, and it's been an amazing journey, and it's why I do what I do.
Thanks for sharing that. Lots of positive comments and thank yous flowing in. Very impactful presentation. Thank you for sharing your story. Love your leadership style. Love your message. Thank yous just flowing through. Appreciate your thoughtful words. So thanks again. And on that note, we will go ahead and let's do the book drawing. If you can pick a number between 1 and 22.
Oh, let's go with 15 because my daughter turned 15 today.
Well, happy birthday to your daughter. And
Yeah,
who is number 15? Loretta Vega, congratulations. If you want, you can post your message to post your address to me directly in this chat, or we can reach out after and we'll get that book sent on its way to you. All right. Well, as we close out, again, thank you so much, Chad. This has been so inspirational. I feel truly refreshed. Our next luncheon is April 21st, and our speaker will be Jason Culberson. He is our Rapid City Fire Chief. So looking forward to that luncheon. And I'd also like to mention that we are accepting applications for new board members. So if you are interested, please submit your application. Our current board members, we have some amazing women, and I'd like to recognize them for International Women's History Month. They're accompanied by our fearless board leader, Josh Farley. Our women board members are Dr. Anna Quinn, Dawn Connor, Christina McCollum, Laura Klapperig, Shannon Truix, Shelley McCutcheon, and Sheena Cossett. Great group. All right, well, thanks again, everyone. This has been great. We hope to see you next month. And until then, stay safe and take care.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.